You're not going to do the clipperboard? No, I'm kidding. It's all good, it's all good.
Action!
Okay. I wasn't ready. No, I'm ready. Okay, so guys, we're about to show you a bonus section, and this is a form of rapid hypnosis, rapid induction. It's called Through the Floor, and Blake has happily obliged to be the client for this. This is a technique that you would typically use if you've gone through, let's say you have a client that comes in, they're expecting a 1 hour long session. You take them through perhaps a Krasner induction or an Ericksonian induction, and if something happens and they come out of hypnosis and you probably invested maybe 25, 30 minutes into the session, you think, you know what, I don't have time to go back. By knowing how to use rapid induction and through the floor is kind of like that ace up your sleeve, the technique that you pull out if you need to take your client into a deep state of hypnosis very quickly without any of the sort of the experience side of it, just so you can continue on where you just last left off. The purpose of this, or the effectiveness of this, really does depend on the pre-frames as well, as you'll soon hear. So the reason why a rapid induction works is we firstly need to set up a pattern, and then we need to interrupt that pattern. Now, it's not what I'd normally tell Blake is about to happen, but just to give you some insight into how a rapid induction works and really what you need to be looking for as the practitioner. So with this technique of Through the Floor, what I'm going to ask Blake to do is put his hand on mine. So Blake, you put your hand on top of mine. And so what I'll do for this is I'll actually talk to Blake as though he's my client, and then we'll deconstruct it later. So Blake, what I want you to do is I want you to push down on my hand. I'm going to count from 10 to 0. And with each number I count, I want you to push down harder and harder and harder and harder. Okay. Making sense? Yep. So go 10, harder, 9, harder, 8, harder, 7, 6, go on harder, 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 4, 3, harder, harder, 2, harder, 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 1, 0. All right, stop. Fantastic. Great. All right. So what we've done now is we have set the pattern. We've set the pattern. We've sort of said Blake now has an understanding that that's what's required of him. So now what we're going to do is we're going to interrupt that pattern. Blake would normally know this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get him to push his hand down on my hand again. Now what you're doing is when you ask your client to push their hand on your hand, you're going to make sure that their hand is over the top of their lap. Because what you're about to do is you're going to get them to do exactly the same thing. So in a moment, we're going to get Blake to push down on my hand as I count back from 10 to 0. What Blake is unaware of, and obviously he's aware now, but what he will most likely not be aware of is that at some point before I get to 1, I'm going to pull my hand out. And so because he's got pressure on my hand, his hand's going to slap down onto his lap. That's one part of it. So for example, put your hand on top of mine. Now I'm also going to pre-frame him. And so the pre-frame you would generally use would say, okay, Blake, what we're going to do this very quick rapid induction. And so what's going to happen, I'm going to get you to push your hand down onto my hand again, counting from 10 to 0, and each number I count, I want you to push harder and harder and harder. What's going to happen, I'm going to take you through this process that's called Through the Floor. And when you hear me say the word sleep, you'll go into a rapid state of hypnosis, you go very deep, and you start to become very, very relaxed. Making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I just quickly pre-frame my client, tell them what's about to happen. Now I'm not going to tell my client that I'm going to pull my hand out without them knowing, but that's what's going to happen, and that interrupts the pattern. So we don't want our client to have too much awareness, because then it doesn't actually interrupt the pattern. But the pattern they're expecting is that I'm going to be holding my hand here, they're going to be pressing down from 10 to 0. All right, now the next part to it, so as I withdraw my hand and Blake's hand would slap down onto his lap, what I'm also going to do is just with a certain amount of force, I'm just going to tap him into the back of the neck. Now I don't want to karate chop him and I don't want to jolt him too much, but I just want to give him a little tap, and as I give him that tap, I am going to say sleep. And I'm going to say it with conviction, and therefore I'm going to try and time it. So if I just simulate this, as his hand taps his knee or his leg, I'm going to hit him on the back of the neck and say sleep at the same time. So I want to hear a slap here, I hear a slap back here as I say sleep all at the same time, and then I tell him to drift, drop and fall, and just give him a soft rock just to help him relax and go into a deep state of hypnosis. And that's the rapid form of hypnosis called through the floor. And the reason why it's called through the floor is that when it was first designed, people were using the script such as, and when you hear me say sleep, you'll go so deep you'll go through the floor. And that's where the term through the floor comes from. Okay, so Blake, this is how it would look normally. All right, Blake, so what I'm going to get you to do, push your hand down on my hand, with each number I count getting harder and harder and harder. Making sense? Yep. And so when I say the word sleep, you go into a very deep state of hypnosis, so deep you're going to feel like you're going straight through the floor. Making sense? Very cool. It's going to be nice and relaxing for you.
Awesome.
All right, fantastic. All right, so let's go. So 10, 9, 8, harder, 7, 6, sleep. Drifting, dropping, falling. Drifting, dropping, falling. Going deeper, deeper, and deeper. That's right. Feeling more and more relaxed. That's right. And so now Blake is in a deep state of hypnosis. And this is where we then continue on for the process where we left off, or I might just want to give him some suggestions at this point. And so this is through the floor. If you've got any questions, get in contact with us, let us know. We're here to support you, here to help you. Hopefully this has been valuable for you. Thanks for watching.